At my father's 60th birthday dinner, my sister stood and raised her glass. "To the best parents anyone could ask for," she announced, her voice carrying across the elegant country club dining room. "Thank you for raising an only child with so much love and dedication." Silence fell as 50 pairs of eyes shifted awkwardly between Sophie and me. I sat there, fork frozen midway to my mouth, as our parents nodded approvingly. No one corrected her. No one even glanced my way to check if I was okay with being erased from existence at our father's milestone birthday. I just smiled and took a sip of my champagne, the folder in my purse suddenly feeling heavier than before. The thing about family is they always know exactly where to stick the knife. Sophie knew what she was doing with her only child comment. I could tell by the slight smirk at the corner of her mouth as she sat back down to approving murmurs. Our father beamed at her like she'd just announced a cure for cancer, instead of delivering a calculated insult to her older sister. Mom dabbed at her eyes with her monogrammed napkin. Such a beautiful speech from their perfect daughter. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment alone. The country club restroom was all marble and soft lighting, designed to make even a breakdown look elegant. I gripped the edge of the sink, staring at my reflection. "Don't give them the satisfaction," I whispered to myself. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Maria. She did it. "The only child bomb just dropped right in the middle of the toast," Maria replied instantly. "Holy shit, are you okay? Are you going to use the folder?" I stared at her message for a long moment. Was I really going to do this? Blow up my father's 60th birthday party with the nuclear option? I took a deep breath, straightened my designer blazer, the one I'd spent too much on specifically for this event, and texted back. "Yes, it's time. Updated. I've been reading all your comments, and I'm overwhelmed by your support, many of you asked why I didn't just walk out immediately after that toast. Truth is, I needed to be strategic. A hasty exit would have let them paint me as emotional again. Instead, I had something much better planned. Do you think it's ever justified to expose family secrets publicly, or should dirty laundry always be handled privately? To understand why my sister's only child comment cut so deep, you need to know our history. I'm Alexa, 32, successful architect with my name on award-winning buildings across 3 states. My sister Sophie, 28, is, well, professionally, she's still figuring things out after 3 abandoned master's degrees and a series of networking opportunities funded by our parents. But in our family dynamic, she's always been the star. It started early when I was 7 and Sophie was 3. I won a statewide math competition. My parents skipped the ceremony because Sophie had a dance recital that day. "She needs us more," Mom explained. "You're so independent already." That became the pattern. Sophie needed. I managed. Sophie struggled. I succeeded quietly. Sophie demanded. I accommodated by high school. The contrast was stark. My perfect grades earned nods of expectation met. Sophie's passing marks warranted lavish celebrations. When I got into Cornell on scholarship, Dad commented on how I'd lucked out. When Sophie finally got accepted to her third-choice college after 2 rejections, they threw a party and bought her a car to make campus life easier. I moved out after college, determined to build my own life. I established myself at a prestigious architecture firm, eventually becoming their youngest partner. Meanwhile, Sophie bounced between our parents' house and various passion projects they financed. Yet somehow, at every family gathering, Sophie's temporary internships outshone my architectural achievements. The dynamic might have continued indefinitely, if not for Maria, my best friend since college, and now a paralegal at a high-powered law firm. 3 weeks ago, she called me, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Alex, I found something you should see," she said. "I was filing documents for the Morrison case, and I saw your dad's name." "What? Why would my dad's files be at your firm?" "My father ran a successful investment company. He had his own legal team. These aren't business documents," Maria said carefully. "They're personal, property purchases, financial arrangements for another family," I laughed. "That's impossible. You must be mixing him up with someone else." "There are photos, Alex, recent ones, your dad with a woman and 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl. The paperwork goes back 15 years. My world tilted. 15 years. Since I was 17 and Sophie was 13, my father had been living a double life for nearly half my existence. Maria brought the documents to my apartment that night. Deeds to a house in Brookfield, just 30 minutes from our family home. College funds established for 2 children, Emma, 16, and James, 14, family vacation photos. Christmas cards signed, "With love, Robert, Caroline, Emma, and James." My father's signature. Unmistakable. "I could lose my job for showing you these," Maria whispered as I spread the evidence across my dining table. "But you needed to know the most surreal part?" In these photos, my father looked happy, genuinely happy, in a way I rarely saw at our family events. All those business trips and late meetings suddenly made sense. What didn't make sense was how he afforded it all. My father did well, but maintaining two full households at our lifestyle level should have been beyond his means. I dug deeper, tracing financial records through my contacts in banking. The truth was staggering. For the past 7 years, I had been unknowingly supporting my father's secret life. When I became partner at my firm, I set up an automatic monthly transfer to help my parents with what Dad called investment troubles. He'd approached me during the 2008 financial crisis, claiming he needed temporary help to weather the storm. The transfers had continued ever since, with Dad providing vague updates about recovering slowly whenever I asked about paying me back. Now I understood why recovery never came. My money wasn't rebuilding his investment portfolio. It was funding piano lessons, family vacations, and private school tuition for children I didn't know existed. I gathered everything, financial records, property deeds, photos, into a folder and kept it with me constantly, unsure what to do with this nuclear-level information. Then came the invitation to Dad's 60th birthday celebration at Lakeside Country Club. Mom emphasized repeatedly how important family unity would be at this milestone event. Family unity, the irony was almost comical. I arrived at the party alone, the folder secured in my purse like a weapon I wasn't sure I'd use. Sophie showed up 20 minutes late in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Immediately drawing all attention to herself, Mom fussed over her entrance while Dad beamed. I sipped my champagne quietly, watching the performance I'd seen countless times before. During dinner, Sophie dominated conversation with stories about her upcoming entrepreneurial venture, a vaguely defined wellness concept our parents had already committed to funding. When I mentioned my firm winning the contract for the new City Arts Center, Dad nodded distractedly before turning back to Sophie's explanation of her brand vision. It was familiar territory until Sophie stood for her toast and the words, "only child," left her lips. As our parents nodded in approval, something broke. Inside me, not noisily, not dramatically, just a quiet snapping of the last thread connecting me to the illusion that I mattered to them at all. So here I stood in the country club bathroom, deciding whether to maintain peace by swallowing this final insult, or to unleash a truth that would shatter our family's carefully constructed facade. I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet, all the slights I'd overlooked, all the ways I'd made myself smaller to keep the peace. Not anymore. I walked back to the dining room with purpose, the weight of the folder now feeling like power rather than burden. Sophie was still basking in the aftermath of her toast, accepting compliments from family friends while Mom showcased her like a prized exhibit. Dad was deep in conversation with his business associates, that familiar crinkle of pride around his eyes. The one I'd spent decades trying to earn, I took my seat, smiling politely at the elderly couple across from me, Dad's former neighbors who probably didn't even remember my name. The server brought out the birthday cake, a towering creation with Happy 60th Robert, scripted in gold fondant. The perfect moment approached. "Anyone else want to say a few words before we cut the cake?" Mom asked, her eyes deliberately scanning the room without landing on me. "Actually, I would." I stood slowly, glass in hand. A flicker of annoyance crossed Mom's face before she masked it with a smile. "Of course," she said tightly. "Alexa would like to speak." The room quieted, though not with the same respectful hush that had greeted Sophie's toast. I could read the BR. Collective thought bubble. What could the other daughter possibly add? "First, I'd like to thank my sister for her honesty earlier," I began, my voice steady. "It takes courage to speak your truth so openly." Sophie's smug smile faltered slightly. "For those of you who might be confused, I'm the daughter who doesn't count. The one who was just erased from family history in my sister's touching toast." I paused, letting the discomfort ripple through the room. "But that's okay. Sophie's right in a way. I've never really been treated like a true member of this family." Dad shifted in his seat, glancing at his watch. Mom's smile became strained. Sophie rolled her eyes, already dismissing me as oversensitive. Since I'm apparently not family, I thought it appropriate to make an announcement of my own. I set my glass down and reached for my purse. For the past 7 years, I've been making monthly transfers to help support my father's business during what he called a temporary rough patch. Dad's head snapped up, his eyes suddenly laser-focused on me. That's roughly $370,000 over the years, which I never expected to see again. Family helps family, right? I smiled directly at Sophie. But since I'm not family, as established today, I'll be discontinuing these payments immediately. The silence in the room was absolute. Dad's face had gone pale. Mom was frantically trying to catch his eye. But there's more. I pulled out the folder and placed it on the table. While I was reviewing my financial commitments, I discovered something interesting about where my money has actually been going. "Alexa," Dad said, his voice a warning. "This isn't the place." "Isn't it, though?" I countered calmly. "Isn't a family gathering exactly the place to discuss family matters? Or does that only apply to the family members you acknowledge?" I opened the folder and laid out the first photo. Dad with his arm around a woman named Caroline, both smiling beneath a happy anniversary banner. For those who don't know her, this is Caroline, Dad's other wife, not legally, of course. That would be bigamy. But in every way that matters, I placed another photo beside it. And these are Emma and James, Dad's other children, the ones he's been raising parallel to us for the past 15 years. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. Mom's face crumpled in confusion, then horror as she recognized the truth in my words. Sophie's mouth hung open in shocked disbelief. Have copies of property deeds, financial statements, and even holiday cards for anyone who's interested. I gestured to the folder. It turns out Dad has been quite busy maintaining 2 complete families. And the best part? My family support payments have been funding piano lessons, summer camps, and college funds for my half-siblings that I didn't even know existed. Dad stood abruptly. This is completely inappropriate. We should discuss this privately. Like, you've been privately discussing your other family for 15 years? I asked, my voice never rising above a conversational level. No, thank you. I've had enough secrets. I turned to the stunned room. I apologize for disrupting the celebration. I just thought that if we're being honest about family dynamics tonight, we should go all the way. I gathered the photos, returned them to the folder, and handed it to my father. Happy birthday, Dad. I've made digital copies of everything, so feel free to keep these. Consider it my last gift to you. Then I picked up my purse, nodded politely to the guests, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, chaos erupted. Mom was sobbing. Sophie was demanding explanations in that shrill voice she used when attention shifted away from her. Dad was attempting damage control. His business voice activated as he tried to herd people into the library to explain this misunderstanding. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Well? I stepped outside into the cool evening air and took my first free breath in decades. It's done, I typed back. I'll call you later. As I reached my car, I heard my name called. I turned to see Sophie running across the parking lot, her heels clacking against the asphalt. How could you? She demanded. Makeup smeared from crying. You've destroyed everything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. Without the shield of parental favoritism, who was she? No, Sophie, I just stopped letting all of you destroy me. I unlocked my car. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Neither of us deserved a father who lived a lie. This isn't about Dad, she snapped. This is about you making a scene like always. You couldn't just let me have one night. I laughed, genuinely amused. One night? You've had every night for 28 years. You literally erased me from existence in your speech, and our parents nodded along. Did you really think I'd just sit there and take it forever? Her face contorted with anger, but I saw the calculation. Behind it, Sophie had always been strategic with her emotions. You've ruined everything, she repeated, folding her arms. Mom's hysterical. Dad's career will be over when this gets out. Are you happy now? I'm not happy, I said softly. But I'm free. There's a difference. My phone rang. Dad's name flashing on the screen. I declined the call and got into my car. They'll never forgive you for this, Sophie called as I started the engine. I rolled down the window and offered her one last smile. That's the best part, Sophie. I no longer need their forgiveness. As I drove away, my phone lit up with notifications. Calls from Mom, from Dad, from relatives suddenly remembering I existed. I turned it off entirely, the freedom of disconnection, washing over me like a wave. Updated. I'm seriously overwhelmed by all your responses. For those asking if I immediately regretted my decision, honestly, no. Driving away from that country club was like putting down a weight I'd carried my entire life. Many have asked about my mom's reaction. Was she truly clueless about Dad's second family? I believe she was, but her reaction afterward told me everything. Do you think there's ever a path back to any kind of relationship with family after something like this? Or are some bridges meant to stay burned? The days following Dad's birthday explosion were exactly as chaotic as you'd expect. I checked into a hotel that night. Unwilling to return to my apartment where my family knew to find me, I finally turned my phone back on around 3 a.m., watching, as notifications flooded in. 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, and countless social media alerts. Dad's messages evolved from fury. How dare you humiliate me like this? To damage control. We need to discuss how to handle this situation. To, finally, inevitably, panic about money. We need to review those transfers immediately. Not a single apology, not one acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused. Mom's texts were pure emotional manipulation. I'm devastated. How could you do this to us? And the classic, I raised you better than this. Nothing about how Dad had betrayed her. Nothing about the years of deception. Her priority wasn't processing her husband's double life. It was controlling the narrative and minimizing embarrassment. Sophie's messages were the most revealing. Everyone's talking about this on social media. Mom and Dad are fighting nonstop. And then the real concern? Dad says we might have to sell the lake house. The horror of potential lifestyle adjustments clearly outweighed any interest in our father's moral bankruptcy. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I texted Maria. I need a good lawyer. The next morning, I met with Patricia Winters, a formidable divorce attorney who also handled family financial disputes. She reviewed my documents with professional detachment, occasionally raising an eyebrow at particularly damning evidence. Your T.O. father has been engaged in financial fraud, she said finally. Using your money to support a second household without disclosure is legally actionable. The emotional aspects aside, this is straightforward theft. I don't want to destroy him, I clarified. I just want my money back and complete separation from their financial affairs. Patricia nodded. We'll send formal documentation freezing all further transfers and demanding repayment of misappropriated funds. If he complies, this can remain a private matter. While Patricia drafted legal notices, I rented a small furnished apartment under an LLC name and moved in with just my essentials. I needed space that was truly mine, untainted by family drama. I took a week off work, explaining to my partners that I was dealing with a family emergency, the understatement of the century. On day 3 of my self-imposed exile, the family PR machine activated. Aunt Judith called my best college friend trying to locate me, claiming, the family is worried sick. Cousin Michael posted a vague Facebook status about supporting family. Through mental health crises, then came the masterstroke. Sophie gave an exclusive interview to her friend's lifestyle blog, describing her heartbreak over her sister's very public breakdown. The article painted me as unstable, jealous, and delusional. Sophie expressed deep concern about my increasingly erratic behavior and tendency to create dramatic scenarios for attention. She even suggested that my false accusations stemmed from unresolved childhood competition. Maria sent me the link with multiple angry face emojis. This is character assassination, she fumed. We should respond. No, I decided. That's exactly what they want. Any reaction feeds their narrative that I'm emotional and irrational. Instead, I instructed Patricia to accelerate our legal proceedings. By the end of the week, my father received formal notice of financial claims against him, freezing his access to several accounts we'd jointly established years ago. The documents included copies of all evidence regarding his misappropriation of funds, plus a clear warning that any public disparagement of me would result in the evidence being submitted to his professional licensing board. That silenced the public character assassination, but launched a new phase of private begging. Dad showed up at my office, only to be turned away by security with instructions not to admit him again. Mom left tearful voicemails about family loyalty and how everyone makes mistakes. Sophie switched tactics completely, suddenly remembering our special bond and how she'd always looked up to me. I maintained my silence, speaking only through my attorney. Each communication made one thing clear. I was done being invisible when convenient and exploited when useful. The most surprising development came 3 weeks after the party. I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. Caroline Jensen @gmail.com. The subject line simply read, I think we should talk. Caroline, my father's other partner? Victim? Accomplice? I wasn't sure what to call her. I stared at the email for hours before finally opening it. Alexa, I understand you probably have no interest in hearing from me, but after what happened, I felt I needed to reach out. Robert came home the night of his birthday and told us everything. At first, I didn't believe him, that there could be another entire family he'd kept secret from us. Now I realize you probably felt the same shock. I want you to know that I never knew about you and your mother and sister. Robert told me he was divorced when we met, and over the years, he explained his frequent absences as business commitments. I feel sick knowing our happiness came at your expense. Emma and James have been devastated learning their father's true nature. They're asking questions about their half-sisters. If you're ever willing, they'd like to meet you. No pressure, just an open door. Caroline. I read it 5 times, emotions cycling between anger. How could she not have known? Sympathy. Was she another victim? And curiosity about the half-siblings I'd never met? I saved the email but didn't respond immediately. I needed time. Meanwhile, the financial consequences of my actions hit my family hard. Without my regular contributions, my father couldn't maintain both households at their accustomed levels. His business partners, concerned about his judgment after rumors spread, initiated a review of his recent decisions. Mom had to cancel her annual summer gala, a social calendar highlight, citing family circumstances. Sophie's new wellness venture stalled when the promised startup capital from Dad didn't materialize. She began posting cryptic social media updates about betrayal and standing strong through storms, interspersed with increasingly desperate promotions for multi-level marketing products. I watched it all from a distance, neither gloating nor intervening. For the first time in my wee life, their problems weren't mine to solve. 6 weeks after the birthday revelation, I finally met my half-siblings at a quiet cafe in neutral territory. Emma, 16, had my father's eyes but none of his calculating coldness. James, 14, was quieter. Observing me carefully from beneath shaggy hair, Caroline sat slightly apart, giving us space to connect. "Did you always know about us?" Emma asked directly. I shook my head. "I found out 3 weeks before the party. It was a shock." "For us too," James said, his first contribution to the conversation. "It's weird to suddenly have sisters." "Half-sisters," I corrected gently. "And I'm still figuring out what that means too." We talked for nearly 2 hours, carefully navigating this strange new reality. They weren't responsible for our father's choices, and their curiosity about me seemed genuine. By the end, we'd established a tentative text thread to stay in touch, with no pressure for immediate bonding. As Caroline and I walked to our cars afterward, she touched my arm lightly. "Thank you for meeting them. It meant a lot." "They seem like good kids," I said honestly. "They are." She hesitated. "Robert wants to arrange a meeting with all of us, both families together. He thinks we can work through this and become one extended family." I laughed, the sound sharper than intended. "That's not happening." I told him as much. Caroline said, surprising me, "Some bridges can't be unburned." She paused. "For what it's worth, I've filed for divorce." I nodded, respecting her decision without commenting further. We parted with an awkward half-hug, connected by circumstance, rather than choice. That evening, I received my first direct contact from my father in nearly 2 months, a formal-looking envelope delivered to my new apartment. How he found the address, I could only guess. Inside was a handwritten note that read simply, "I may have lost the right to be your father, but please don't punish your mother and sister for my mistakes. They miss you. Dad." Beneath it was a check for $50,000, a fraction of what he owed me, but clearly meant as a gesture. I tore it into tiny pieces and flushed it down the toilet, watching the fragments swirl away like my former need for his approval. 18 months can change everything. The architecture firm where I'm now senior partner just won the Pritzker Prize for our Sustainable Urban Renewal project. I'm dating Michael, a structural engineer I met through work who makes me laugh daily and has zero interest in family drama. I have my own orbit now, filled with people who see me, really see me, as I am. My father's investment firm underwent a restructuring that left him with a significantly reduced role. The house in Brookfield was sold. His carefully constructed double life collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions. Caroline finalized her divorce, receiving a settlement that required him to sell his beloved boat and vacation property. I maintained occasional contact with Emma and James, establishing a cautious relationship based on shared interests rather than shared DNA. We're not close, but the door remains open for whatever connection might develop naturally. Caroline and I exchange polite emails every few months, a strange alliance born of parallel betrayal. Mom took a different path than I expected. After the initial shock and denial, she retreated to our family's lake house for 3 months of reflection. When she emerged, she had reinvented herself as a wounded but resilient figure, giving carefully curated interviews to sympathetic society columnists about healing from betrayal and finding strength in midlife. She never publicly acknowledged my role in uncovering the truth, depicting herself as the one who bravely exposed family secrets. I let her have the narrative. My freedom wasn't contingent on public vindication. Sophie's trajectory was more predictable. When the family finances tightened, she quickly found herself a wealthy boyfriend with venture capital connections. Her Instagram transformed overnight from wellness guru to devoted girlfriend, posting about supporting my man and the power behind the throne. She still occasionally reached out with carefully worded texts designed to sound conciliatory, while actually fishing for information about my financial status. I never responded. Some relationships aren't worth rebuilding. The final piece of the story fell into place at the Franklin Architecture Awards last month. I was there representing our firm, celebrating a major recognition for a children's hospital design. During the cocktail reception, I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to find Sophie standing there in a dress that probably cost her new boyfriend a month's income. "Wow, look at you," she said, her eyes scanning my outfit with practiced casualness. "I heard your firm was nominated. Congratulations." "We won, actually," I replied, maintaining a polite distance. "What brings you here?" "Jason's company is sponsoring the event." She gestured vaguely toward a man in an expensive suit across the room. "Plus, I wanted to see you. It's been too long." 18 months of silence. And now she wanted to chat at a professional event, as though nothing had happened. Classic Sophie. "How are Mom and Dad?" I asked, more out of curiosity than concern. "Dad's managing. The medical bills have been rough. His heart attack really scared everyone." She watched my face carefully as she delivered this news, clearly expecting shock or guilt. I hadn't. "Heard," I said evenly. "I hope he's following doctor's orders." Sophie's smile tightened at my lack of dramatic response. Mom's planning their 40th anniversary renewal. She wanted me to invite you personally. No hard feelings and all that. I almost laughed at the audacity. No hard feelings, as if we'd had a minor disagreement about holiday plans rather than a complete family implosion. Please thank her for the invitation, but I won't be attending. Still holding grudges, I see. Sophie sighed dramatically. No, family is supposed to be forever. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a distant sadness for the relationship we never truly had. No, Sophie, family is supposed to be honest, supportive, present, what we had. Wasn't family, it was a performance with assigned roles. I set my empty glass on a passing server's tray. I hope you're happy with Jason, you should probably get back to him. We miss you, she said, a calculated catch in her voice. Especially Mom. You miss what I provided, I corrected gently. There's a difference. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my wrist. Is there really no way back for us? For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to follow me around the house, begging to play with my toys, before she learned to weaponize parental favoritism, before I became her emotional collateral damage. I don't know, I answered honestly, but any way forward would have to be entirely new, built on truth rather than convenience. I'm not sure any of you are capable of that. I gently removed her hand and walked away, rejoining my colleagues who were celebrating our win. As I accepted congratulations and discussed future projects, I caught Sophie watching me from across the room, a strange expression on her face. That might have been regret, or might simply have been calculation of another angle to try. It didn't matter anymore. My worth was no longer determined by their recognition. The invisible daughter had found her own light. Later that night, as Michael and I celebrated with champagne on my apartment balcony, he asked if seeing Sophie had upset me. Surprisingly, no, I answered. It felt like running into someone from high school, familiar but distant. He squeezed my hand. That's progress? It is, I agreed, watching the city lights below us. I used to think family was a fixed point you oriented your life around. Now I understand it's something you build deliberately, with people who choose to see you clearly. We clinked glasses, toasting not to the past but to the future, one where I was visible, valued, and undeniably real. Updated. I just received a text from Emma. She got accepted to Cornell Architecture program. We've decided to meet for coffee to discuss her future plans. It feels strange but right to mentor my half-sister, connecting through shared passion. Rather than shared pain, many of you have asked if I ever regret exposing my father's secret that night. Honestly, no. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop accepting the unacceptable. Have you ever had to make a clean break from toxic family dynamics, or do you believe blood ties should always be preserved no matter what?